Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the NACE Starleague. Once again, we're here with Rocket League playoffs today. I'm Squid, joined by Danger Taco. We have had a phenomenal time so far through the bracket, and the action continues tonight.
Absolutely, and I think this is a really, we always talk about, okay, well, now it's not really getting serious. We're starting to cut all the weaker teams out, and of course, with the double EM bracket, it's nice to see some of the fans' favorites get a chance at redemption. That's really all we're doing tonight. These are lower semis and lower finals, and really, this is taking some twists and turns, Squid. There's a lot of teams I did not expect to see here, so which is why I'm happy that for the schedule of the day, that we do get a lot of very interesting matchups up ahead to really start us all off, and then also to finish off the team Northwood down there. It's just such a strange thing to behold.
Yeah, I mean, having Northwood anywhere in the lower bracket is always a weird thing. At least they're in the lower final. But I mean, even thinking about what we have going on here tonight, we have Siena Heights against the University of North Texas. And hang on a second, Siena Heights? Sorry, didn't they have to play off against St. Clair's A team in the previous round? That's the real question mark here, Taco. I mean, they managed to pull it off. We even saw UNT 7 games against Arcadia, which was a team that we saw on the stream earlier on. They looked phenomenal. So Siena Heights with an upset over St. Clair. Arcadia almost making it here against UNT, but still to see UNT here is awesome. I mean, there's just so much story being told here.
Yeah, and this is really where these types of tournaments are specifically geared for this exact case and standpoint, so that when you get into these situations where you really need to show up, you can, and you can show that you can definitely take these down, especially for these teams that are fighting for all those last chance qualifier spots or all these different types of events and pushing forward, even into next semester for some of them in just preparation for that. This is where it really can boost the confidence. Wait, we can take these players on and take these teams on consistently through a long series. I mean, that's got to build the confidence. So now they just got to make sure they can secure that and get some extra prize money in the purse.
Yeah, of course, St. Clair, a team that didn't make it to Worlds through the Eastern playoffs. So Siena Heights taking a win there is just monumental in so many ways. They failed to make it out to CRL. It was a team that I expected to make it. Taco, I think we had this talk on stream before. I don't remember if you predicted for them in the qualifier stream that we did, but still, it was just an amazing story. But before we get too deep into that, we do want to give a thank you to our sponsor, Mavix, which, of course, like I said, you know, I'm a pretty big fan myself. Mavix chairs, of course, designed with gaming in mind, with locking wheels to keep you in place, cooling and breathable fabrics to keep your body and your bottom dry. And of course, I do kind of need that when we're on the cast here. But it's also got deep recline to allow your body to go super far back. I can attest to that. It almost feels like you're ready to fall over, but they do keep you up. And most importantly, ergonomics. They put you in a proper ergonomic position that helps increase blood flow and reduce stress, which again is quite important if you're doing this kind of a job here, Taco. So I think that this is kind of the perfect fit for me, and most likely the perfect fit for you.
Yes, and absolutely. And for our first match, of course, as we had mentioned, that's Siena Heights and University of North Texas. I mean, it's important to really just spell out the history for these teams. North Texas, I think, is a strange name, though, for some people who are peripherally aware of collegiate Rocket League and that ecosystem. I think you see North Texas and you're looking, wait, we're down in the lower playoffs. Wasn't this like the team in the West? And they've really been on that comeback. Got Lucia D-Bank and then Tritone being able to take the field for them. No longer is Too Fast in here. And then, of course, Siena Heights really trying to make some waves. This was, I would say, the hot new team on the scene in the East with Decay, 11s, and Faded. And I think they underperformed based on their own expectations and a lot of other people's expectations. But to have them here now to prove themselves, I think maybe they've already done that with St. Clair, but you got to have every single obstacle. You got to clear every hurdle in order to truly make your stamp here and take that championship that you think you might deserve.
Well, like we said, you know, UNT, formerly a Titan of the West, they only just missed out on the playoffs here in this last CRL season, so they never had a chance to qualify for Worlds in that regard. But of course, they are here, and they are going to be in the last chance qualifier. We know that pretty well for a fact. But I think Siena Heights, in that regard, this is just another, I guess, obstacle in your way, like I said, you know, or like you said, Taco, with St. Clair having already been taken down. It feels like this is honestly like a step down a little bit for Siena Heights. So as we get into the action here, all that remains to be seen is how they can perform here on the day. And of course, Lucia, D-Mank, Tritone on the other side, there is loads of potential there as well. We talked about how well Tritone has been fitting in, being a little bit of a forced substitution in the last season after Corrosive sustained a hand injury, but still performing up to snuff here is so far in NACE Starleague and in other outlets. Let's get this game underway. Best of 7, only one can advance.
Of course, there's a lot to play for in this game, obviously, but there's also a lot of time to play. That best of 7, I think we've seen plenty of games so far in our NACE Starleague playoffs that are just going crazy, really taking the full extent of the series. And I think at times there's going to be a lot of adjustments to be made. I'm curious to see how these two play styles clash. We haven't seen too much of Sienna Heights on the mainstream. We were supposed to see him previously, but unfortunately they got a little pass through on a forfeit. But clearly they made that one count, as we saw with that St. Clair result. So I think this first minute so far is pretty ordinary with just some average ping pong. And once we get into the tactics, I think that'll be the real juicy part.
Of course, and like I said, you know, keeping an eye on D-Bank and Lucia I think is going to be rather important. If you're a fan of the UNT side, of course, either one of those players does have a little bit of pop-out potential in them, particularly D-Bank. I mean, he's always the one playing the consistent backline, holding things together. Not this time, though. They're going to pick up a demo on the other end, but they leave their back end exposed, and it's 1-0.
And I almost can feel like the idea from Tritone is not that bad. You do have Lucia running into it. The problem is it's out of reach, and then Tritone lands, realizes D-Bank isn't back yet. There's some demos going on in the midfield, and suddenly it's just a wide open goal. However, that still requires a lot of awareness from Decay, noticing that everyone's creeping out, maybe too far out of goal, and maybe just try to lob one on target, see what happens, and I suppose they found out.
Will certainly be a massive boon here for Sienna Heights to begin. As we talked about, UNT does stand in their way as a storied veteran team. They are the new kids on the block, so to speak. They can guarantee themselves a third-place finish in the NACE Starleague playoffs with a victory here, and so far they find themselves in that leading spot, but it certainly won't stay that way if they don't keep it up. They'll find a pass out here to the mid, to 11. That one's just outside the post. Great patience there from Lucia. That goaltender sense coming in clutch.
Yeah, but Lucia not able to follow through with a nice clear through. And now D-Bank is going to be backwards, and honestly, whatever position they're facing, it is the right one. Good save, Tritone. Can't follow that up. 11 on the back post. Can't have to get through Lucia. Full team defense required on this one. Sienna Heights looking fierce when they do get on the ball. I do like their follow-throughs in a lot of these touches. They are certainly making UNT not take anything for granted.
Does seem relatively comprehensive so far, although there are, of course, a couple of things that could be bringing to the table, like demolitions. A nice little touch away here for Decay. D-Bank trying to get this one off the corner. Maybe a unwitting second touch. Tritone's still on this ball towards the center. Decay in a bit of an awkward spot. Lackluster clearance, but immediately over to 11. Had that coverage there near the top of the box. They made sure that they were finding a touch out to each other to make that clearance. A very important one at that. You could see UNT lurking. It's the last place you want to see them in. Nice little bump here for Tritone, but D-Bank can't put it anywhere near the target. Just has to play for possession.
And Lucia trying to keep it going. Tritone was there, but demo D-Bank, can they spawn back in time? It looks like they might, but no. The goal explosion will sound off. Faded another roller through. And as much as we're complimenting Sienna Heights on how well they're working the ball through the midfield and getting these shots, it's just two open net rollers that are going to be able to get them in the lead.
I mean, being opportunistic is also a sign of a good team. So I can't say that I'm disappointed with that. But at the same time, I do agree. It feels like you want to see some earned goals out of them. So far, I mean, the UNC defense has been holding up pretty well, except for when they actually get out onto the attack and then they don't have anybody back. Of course, the demolition there against D-Bank was a significant factor in that play, surely. But it's still not exactly the greatest look for them. They might have a chance to get something back here. Faded off their own backboard. 11 far and away, the first of that ball. Inside of 2 minutes, we've seen very, very little of North Texas on the attacking side. They've tallied up 2 shots so far. Only one of them has gotten close to the goal line. It was relatively controlled by Decay in that regard. Lucia now towards Tritone. It's a good idea. Just a little bit too high and not far enough away from Faded. They will be able to play this one towards the midfield. Tritone, a little bit of an extra shot, but again, so easily fielded away by Decay here. There's just no control after the initial shot comes through from UNT. They need to hold on to this ball for just a little bit longer if they want anything to happen.
And I like these touches off the corner from UNT. The problem is they're rotating all the way back to mid to get boost and then re-enter. The issue is if you hit it off the corner, it has to be very powerful. Otherwise, there's no one that can actually catch up to it in time. But I suppose if you continue hitting it, at least have some semblance of the backboard. Can't stress them. It nearly looked like Sienna Heights was going to let that one through, but instead, they get out and then face the new attack. Lucia putting it behind the defender, and finally UNT on the board.
It feels like a rare situation where Sienna Heights tried to make a play and they were actually beaten out. You could see Decay, of course, being cut out in that passing lane, and then 11 has no chance to make a secondary contact on that ball. As soon as it's broken down to 1v1 with Lucia and Faded and Lowe's to shoot at, and that it starts to break down a little bit on the Sienna Heights defense. It's a well play from North Texas. They finally found a bit of a cutoff angle through the midfield. They made use of it. They've only got 1 minute remaining if they want to pick up number 2 and force OT. It's a nice little drop down here for Lucia, going to force Faded into action. This could still very well be playable. Secondary touch from D-Bank. Even looking for more. It's going to be Tritone who has to follow this one down. They almost get a shot on target. Lucia just cut out by Faded on that one. Again, the speed from Sienna Heights is just good enough to keep the UNT attack at bay.
Yeah, keeping him at bay and keeping him out are two different things. Tritone trying to put it down. Lucia, that's a brilliant pass, but they cannot get above it. It's just going to go to the side yet again. D-Bank keeping it interesting. Tapped out a Tritone near post. It's off, and the deflection is going to act as a clear, a brutal way for that attack to end. But Sienna Heights certainly breathing a sigh of relief, at least for now. They got 15 seconds remaining, and they got to brace one more time. It's wide open, but only Faded able to get that touch.
And they expected the touch from 11 on the UNT side, and now they're going to be punished for it. That's a lackluster clear from Faded, but a double commit there in the midfield. Tritone's going to have to turn on this one. They do have D-Bank to work with. Looking over towards Lucio. No, denied by Decay here, all the way back into their own corner. It's a complete reset here for UNC. D-Bank keeps it up, but not past Faded. They instantly shut that one down, and Sienna Heights takes game one. But Taco, this was not particularly convincing by any metric.
And that is a tough game, 100% from UNT, particularly because they're doing the basics fairly well, except on defense. Those rollers through are a brutal way to go, but at least when UNT starts getting into the offense, it looked clean, but you could even see the respect being paid. We'd both mentioned that ball on the backboard at the end where I was saying it was wide open. It's because 3 different UNT players had a stake at that shot, but they trusted the clear so much that you could see them almost back off, say, okay, let's wait for this deflection. And then when none came through, no one can react to it. So at least send one person to just go in all on it. If you want to cover options, then do that. But I guess sometimes the hesitancy is going to bite UNT. It's still a close game, but game one definitely going the way of Sienna Heights for good reason.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even looking at the total shot counter here, it was something that I mentioned right about halfway through the game. I noted like, oh man, we haven't seen too much of UNT on the attack. It was a real disappointment in that way. But at the end of the game here, they actually outshoot their opponents by 2. So, yeah, I cannot be too disappointed with how they ended up playing this game. Of course, they did let a couple of slow rollers in, yeah, but they are going to be talking about that. I can almost guarantee that they are going to be saying, like, hey, we need to make sure we have a deep third in the event that we're going for an aggressive 2-men forward kind of play. And of course, as we've talked about multiple times, you got Too Fast in the background. He's not going to let that one go either. So I have a lot of faith in UNT to make those kinds of necessary changes, and Sienna Heights is going to have to start generating some offense of their own, not to mention some more quality scoring chances of their own. We didn't see them score really on their own merit a single time. Again, punishes are important, but being able to find some way to break down the defense of your own volition is also a vital aspect of any good team.
And ultimately, being able to hit those balls in the open net, as we mentioned, is important. But I even said that Sienna Heights did have good ability to break down the defense. It just didn't really become necessary. Beyond that, they were definitely being pressed by UNT, but nothing with anything with the substance that I would say that it was too worrisome for them. I think there was close calls at the end, but for the most part, that was UNT throwing down the pressure and then finding some form of foothold. So now, game 2, that's really the main thing that I want UNT to focus on. Make sure the defense cleans up, and then I think we're seeing a completely different series. However, Faded still trying to throw in some surprise out of nowhere on the sidewall, nearly tucked in an early one.
Oh, in 11, with a flip reset there, that could have been a deadly little bit of contact up towards the top corner. Not meant to be, though, and we'll play here towards the end of the first minute. Still scoreless, but very much the same look as what we saw in game 1. Sienna Heights vastly on the attack, although this time around, Tritone, no contact, but off the crossbar. That'll do just enough work. Lucia can't put it under either. And we'll continue to play here scoreless. Faded down the line here, denied by Tritone. And a quality 50-50 at that will get UNT right back onto the attacking side.
Faded and 11s trying to combine with each other. Quick little hook shot, maybe say over eager, though it certainly did test D-Bank for a moment. 11s off the rip, going to go straight down, now into Faded. They're going to try to slow play that. Good challenge by Tritone. Faded with a back pass, might be just a pass into Lucia, but they're not going to be able to catch up to that one, and we're going to be seeing a lot of midfield back and forth as both teams just trying to shore up the defense and make sure that they can come at everything with a bit more of a solid backing.
Ooh, nice read there by Decay as well. Baiting out the touch from Tritone and then immediately going high on it allows their team a little bit of control. Faded with a good look at the net here, but Lucia able to recover in time. Now with the 1-2 downfield, Lucia towards the target, just wide at 11 with the follow-up, respecting that double touch opportunity. And still blocked out of the midfield here. UNT, both UNT and Sienna Heights prepare for counterattacks in their own right. Faded should have an easy save here, just around D-Bank going for the dunk on that one. Relentless pressure on either side. I love the individual play that we're seeing from both of these teams so far. I think particularly UNT has been responsible, but a couple of times Siena Heights has been trying to make use of their players. I think 11 was the one we almost saw with a flip reset earlier on. But we've played halfway through the game now. A relatively even scoreboard, 4 shots for UNT. This will be number 7 for Siena Heights, and this will be the first to go through.
And for me, it almost looks like Tritone is calling out D-Bank. D-Bank thinks, okay, fine, you can probably take that one. And then meanwhile, Faded is just screaming down the middle, going right at the ball. I don't know if that's a miscommunication, but that's certainly what it looked like.
Well, one way or the other, Siena Heights does have the lead. And of course, when it comes down to making plays like that, if it's a miscommunication, oh boy, that's just free. D-Bank does not miss those. That's going to be the tying goal. Quick response.
And I think both you and I know D-Bank well enough to once this setup went through, as you mentioned, it's free. That is more or less a guaranteed goal. So D-Bank reminding everyone that, yes, even though that goal that Siena Heights was given, it looks a little clunky, doesn't mean that I can't answer right on back. The front man, really I would say the core of this UNT squad, always that reliable third man, able to show that they can do it on offense as well. Faded, gonna get denied by the woodwork, and it's gonna be a brutal one. That could have been a great way to answer back.
Of course, yeah. And like I was saying, reliable third man for D-Bank. But I think that might be a misclassification on my part, because he's just a reliable whatever man. Literally any position you put D-Bank in, you can expect him to make the play. And of course, for any other player, that double tap may look really high skill, but again, we just know that D-Bank is going to score. This is nothing new, just another day at the office. What a touch here down to Lucia. That pitch directly onto their hood. They couldn't make much more out of it than a clearance, but they will get an attack off the backboard again. D-Bank denied by 11. A fairly predictable shot angle, no matter the velocity.
I really like that 50 from Lucia, being able to keep that in the corner. Not going to work out, but certainly making Siena Heights scramble. These are longer clears. They're not retaining that possession that they might so crave. 11's changing that, takes it to the far side. D-Bank hounding him. Lucia chipped up. That got away, but they aren't going to be able to hold on to it temporarily. Tritone into the corner. I thought they would try to go for a jump, but ultimately these touches are imprecise from UNT. I like the ideas, but the execution at the end doesn't quite come together. How about this from Lucia? He saw what D-Bank had. He wants some for himself. That's a double tap for 2.
And top of the setup as well, Tritone receiving that one and instantly servicing Lucia to perfection at that. Right down near the top of the box in the perfect lane as well, straight towards the middle of the net. And Lucia, you put it off the backboard there, and the defender has to guess now, oh my goodness, is he gonna go left, you gotta go right? I don't know. Lucia just throws that one off to the right side, completely breaking the axles of whoever's left back. That poor sap. Now inside of 45 seconds left to play here, UNT looking for a response in game 2. And they've got it under wraps right now as long as they can hold on to this lead. They almost look for one more right there, but Decay will see it to the midfield line, followed by Faded. Looking for support in the mid. 11 is there! The light touch off to the right side, and Siena Heights are not going down without a fight.
I love the finesse on this touch here. Faded sets it up, baits it at a defender, then immediately slaps it down. 11 zones, they don't have to hit that with power, they just have to get it past a defender. Fortunately for them, that was a 2-for-1 special. Able to put that into the open net, 2-2, back and forth we continue to go, and look at that shot count continue to go. We have 19 between both these teams so far, we're not in OT.
As you mentioned, a 2-for-1 special there on the defense. Buy one, get one free at that point. 20 seconds to go. We're still in regulation here. Oh, Faded! Uncharacteristic whiff. What it might turn into something? 11! No, the double tap's not there. Still with the waterfall, but there's absolutely no read for Decay. We'll start ticking down into the single digits. Still searching for a leader in this one, and it has been a volatile last couple of moments of this game. Tritone denied to the midfield. Oh, Lucia, trying to keep that one up. That is an aggressive try, but we'll go to OT.
Lucia is certainly someone known for their flair. They love to play aggressive, and I think that's the most aggressive turn I've seen against them. To be honest, it surprised even their teammates. It's not going to work out, though. That is an attitude you certainly need to bring into overtime. Confidence is key. Execution is another. Could be wide open for Decay, but D-Bank, seemingly as always, needs to be there in the clutch and will be. So corner. Main thing I'm looking for right now from Siena Heights is being able to keep that offense up and keep going to those creative passing plays. That is something that UNT has certainly struggled to batten down.
Would agree on that point. And now looks like they're starting to pull out the demolition just a little bit. That makes me slightly afraid. We're not going to see anybody getting up for that one in any reasonable amount of time. Decay closed down by Tritone. No surprises there. 11 and Lucia meet at the midfield. Looking to do it on this one for Siena Heights. And I do have to say, I agree in just about every regard there, Taco. Oh, the demo! That is so free! Can they get back to it? No, not quite! Mischievous is wide. D-Bag is denied the shot, but Tritone is there. Oh boy, was this a crafty one, but UNT will take the victory in overtime.
They're able to tie up the series, but my goodness, you know the mindset I'm in with UNT when as I see Tritone commit his third, the first thought I have is that could be a counterattack for Siena Heights. But no, it works out. They're able to be there in time, but they are certainly not making any friends with that post. That is multiple rejections across different games, but this time the pressure will pay off. And I think this is a lot cleaner from UNT. I think, of course, they're still giving up goals. Yes, this is still a close game, but I'm a fan of how that looked. The interlocking plays, the pressure to break down the defense. That's what I expect out of a UNT side.
Yes, this is absolutely true. And like I said, like we've been saying, basically since Tritone got on the roster, Taco, is we've been looking for constant and consistent improvement. And we have gotten that. It was the same thing that we mentioned when last we saw UNT on the stream. It's the same thing I'm going to mention here. It feels like Tritone has been consistently getting better every time we see them. And now, I wouldn't necessarily put them on the same level as D-Bank or Lucia here, obviously. But they are really starting to get up